everyone, welcome to Live at 12:05. My name is Emmy. I'm the registrar here at the Alouette County Museum. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In the spirit of Halloween, we wanted to share a little bit about the history of witches here in Virginia. We all are familiar with the famous Salem witch trials, arguably the most famous witch trials around the world. These witch trials were known for the mass hysteria and cruel punishment of the accused witches. And here we actually have a postcard from our collection. This was sent from Salem, Massachusetts to the Todd family here in Smithfield. And the image on the postcard is of the trial of George Jacobs that took place in Salem. This postcard is postmarked in 1911, which means that already in the early 1900s, the Salem witch trials were a huge part of the tourism industry in Massachusetts. So they were already world famous by that time. We're all familiar with the Salem witch trials, but did you know that we had our own witch trials here in Virginia? There is evidence of witch trials in Virginia from 1626 to 1730, and there were more than 24 people accused, including 2 men. The reason for the cases here in Virginia is very similar to the reason they happened in New England and in Massachusetts. When the English settlers came here to colonial Virginia, they brought their beliefs with them, including the fear of demons, the devil, and anything that worshiped them like witches. Originally, this fear was placed onto the indigenous people of Virginia. The English settlers believed that the indigenous people were worshiping the devil. And when talking about the chief of the Powhatan, John Smith said he was, quote, more devil than man. In 1613, Reverend Alexander Whitaker wrote that the native people and their behavior led him to believe there were, quote, great witches among them. That was kind of how it started. And then in the 1620s, the settlers of Virginia began to accuse each other of witchcraft. Our area here in the southeastern part of Virginia had the highest percentage of witch trials, but it's hard to give exact details and numbers because so many records were destroyed during the Civil War. The first witch trial of Virginia took place not far from here in Surry County. The accused was a woman named Joan Wright, and she was a midwife. She was a self-professed healer, and she was also left-handed. This made her seem very untrustworthy and suspicious. In fact, she was hired as a midwife for the Allington family, but when they learned that she was left-handed, they refused to have her as their midwife because she seemed untrustworthy. The Allington mother soon fell ill and their newborn baby passed away. And of course, the blame was placed onto Joan Wright, who was accused of cursing the family and causing the death of the newborn baby. The accusers also claimed that she cursed their livestock, and she accurately predicted the deaths of many of her neighbors. So what's interesting is that she was put on trial for being a witch, and she was actually acquitted, even though she admitted to having a basic understanding of witchcraft. As time went on in colonial Virginia, there were more and more witch trials. However, these cases remained much less severe than the ones in New England. Virginia's main source of evidence was things like witches' marks, which were spots on the body that were supposed to indicate that you were a witch, and also ducking tests. Virginia Beach is very well known for having a very famous witch who had a ducking test, which is why there is a road called Witch Duck Road in Virginia Beach. So although Virginia Beach has some very famous witches, and there are some other famous witches in history, we can't forget about our lovely good wife, Joan Wright, here very close to home in Surry. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll hope to see you in the next one, and happy Halloween.